Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is a solo hot tent overnighter in some pretty decent snowfall. So the current temperature right now is negative 15 degrees Celsius. It is supposed to warm up to about negative 10, but who knows what's going to happen. It is currently flurrying right now. There's a little bit of snow pushing through here, and I am out at a lake location. So I'm elevated looking down across the lake. It's really hard to see through the trees, but it is out there. I've got the tent set up right now in kind of a wonky situation. I don't want to press down on the snow and shovel it all out because the snow is going to allow me to make the ground flat, because right now it's pitched in an area that's full of rocks and a whole bunch of hills. So I want to leave the snow inside of the tent, but because I've chosen to do that, the vertical walls of the tent aren't exactly extended. Some of them are squashed a little bit on the inside, but the outside of the tent is pitched totally perfect. And that is all that really matters to me, is the outside is going to shed the snow. The inside is just a home to sleep in. So that is all set up. I've still got my sleeping bag, my sleeping pad, and the wood stove to get inside of there. And then it's going to be wood collection time. So let's get everything else set up and then get after that wood, guys. Okay, everybody, I got everything in camp ready to go for the night except for firewood. Now, before I do go and collect firewood, there are a few things that I do want to point out that I've got going on here. Number one is I'm not actually wearing my knife on my hip, and the reason for that is I'm wearing two pairs of pants. I have an outer shell, which are snow pants. These are actual ski pants, they're waterproof. And then I've got my pants underneath with my belt on, and those are basically my underlayer that I'm going to be in and out of the tent with later on this evening. So where these are waterproof, they have an elastic band and a Velcro strap. I'm not going to be wearing my knife on it just because it's going to weigh me down extra heavy, and I don't like that feeling of pants constantly drooping down. The second thing is I had my sleeping bag outside on the snow, and that is totally fine for today because it is extremely cold out and none of the snow is melting. So having that stuff outside when it's really cold and dry is totally fine. I don't have a problem with any snow getting inside of it anyways, and I keep it nice and zipped up. The third thing is the tent is pitched on a hill. So I do have my shovel. I am going to clear out a little bit of snow around the stove later on, but I'm not going to shovel out the inside. As I mentioned earlier, I am on a hill. So right now I have the freedom of laying down on the pad, which is going to create a little bit of a divot in the snow, which is going to prevent me from rolling out of the bed because it is sloped down this way. So just a couple things to think about when winter camping in cold conditions, in a tent on a hill, all that fun stuff that we need to think about when we're doing this. But enough of that. It is now time to collect firewood because I do want to get enough in here to enjoy during the daytime and the night as well as the morning, because I'm going to be cooking on the stove and not doing an outside fire. So let's get the saw and go find some firewood. Okay guys, firewood prep is all done. I've got everything cut, split, and ready to go. One thing I do have to do is gather up a little bit of birch bark, and it is getting noticeably colder. So you'll notice that I did strip out of my jacket. When cutting firewood, there's a rule. It will heat you 3 times. 1 when you collect it, 2 when you split it, and 3 when you burn it. We've gone through 2 out of 3. The cold is starting to set back in though. So I'm gonna grab my jacket, go off in the woods, gather up some birch bark, make my way back here, and get that stove rocking out some heat, make up a nice hot drink. Alright guys, so I've got the wood stove burning really nice and healthy. Beautiful hot fire inside of the tent. As you guys can see outside, it is not so nice. So it is getting very cold, very windy, and the snow's actually starting to pick up. And for me, that means 2 thumbs up. This is my kind of weather and I'm definitely enjoying it. So I've got my kettle on the stove, gonna bring that up to a boil. I've got my tea all prepped and ready to go. As soon as that's up to temperature, gonna pour it and sit right here and enjoy a nice hot drink in this beautiful winter forest. And then it's gonna be time to start on supper. All right guys, hot cup of tea on the go right now. Beautiful time out here too, with all the snow blowing through, the tent in background smoking. This is definitely awesome. This is why I love winter camping. Coming out here in beautiful scenery. We got the snow, we got the cold crisp air. It's beautiful out here, nice and silent also. So I'm gonna sit back just for a minute, enjoy my hot drink, looking out at the forest, and then we're gonna go over to the tent and start on supper time because it is very, very cold and I am starving. So I'm excited to get cooking, guys. So cheers, hot cup of tea. Alright guys, I'm getting ready to start on supper right now. I've got 3 sausages inside of my frying pan, and I've got a bottle of olive oil that is completely, totally frozen. So I'm gonna have to warm this up, and I don't like doing it next to the stove for 2 reasons. 1, I don't want the glass to crack, and 2, the plastic lid will melt next to the heat source. So what I gotta do is basically tuck this in up against my body, get it nice and warm. And when it gets a little bit warm, I can put it near the stove and keep a very close eye on it that it doesn't melt. But basically that's going to be my supper. And I do have 2 tortilla wraps that I brought as well. So I don't know if I'm just going to put the sausages in there, eat it like a hot dog, or eat them separately. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But that's supper. So they're getting covered in snow right now. I'm just going to get the pan on top of the stove just to start the cooking process. And then once it really starts sizzling up, I'll add a little bit of olive oil just to help those sausages kind of glide on the pan. And we'll cook up supper nice and slow. All right, guys, I'm all finished up with supper now, and those sausage wraps were actually really good. Pretty simple, just spicy Italian sausages inside of a wrap. No sauce, nothing, just super simple and very quick. So I gotta make some water because I am all out of water. I'm just gonna be using this fresh snow, get it in the kettle, get it on top of the stove, boil it up, and basically I'll have water for overnight and in the morning. That way I'm ready to go tomorrow morning. So collect some fresh snow. I'm going to get this stuff away from the tent so it's not near where I was stepping on, just to make sure it's nice and fresh. All right, well, with that kettle on top of the wood stove, it's basically just going to do its thing, and I'm going to continue adding ice and snow until it's full. But that's basically an automated process. I don't need to watch it. It is getting dark rather quickly. It's beautiful out here. The light is just reflecting off of all the fresh snowflakes. So I think it is time to go for a walk through the forest and then make my way back to the tent before crawling in. So let's go stretch our legs a little bit and have a look at the forest. All right, so that was a pretty awesome walk in the woods. Super dark out, all the snow's just reflecting in the light, which is amazing. But I think it is now time to jump inside. It is very cold out, and walking almost broke me out in a sweat with my down jacket on. So if I play it smart, if I get in there quick, I will avoid a sweat is what I'm trying to say. So that's gonna boil down. Now, one thing is I did not go for the fresh snow. I actually chipped down into the ice layer because the ice holds more water than snowflakes do. So that will produce more water faster than powder snow would. Mind you, there is powder snow in there as well, but the ice crystals melt way more efficient. So I'm gonna start zipping some of these doors shut, get some of this stuff squared away outside. The backpack is ready to go. That's gonna stay outside for the night. Everything else is gonna go in. So I will see you guys inside. Alright guys, well finally inside of the tent. I'm totally changed and actually really nice and warm and dry. I've got a ton of hardwood just sitting here drying out around the stove. The fire's going really nicely. I do have it damped down a little bit right now, so it was getting quite hot in here. One thing I really highly recommend you guys do, especially if you're going to be letting your stove go out overnight like I do, is it is snowing outside and there is snow sliding down the side of the tent. So to prevent your tent from accumulating a lot of water and then freezing solid to the ground, I highly recommend shaking your tent off very periodically. Now, this particular tent has awnings that actually hover above the ground, so they reach out like a little shed and the water runs off and hits the ground. So this tent has no problems with that. But if you're going to be running a teepee style hot tent that actually goes down and touches the ground, you want to make sure your footprint's totally clean. And those of you that actually burn the stove really hot all night long, you usually won't have a problem with that. But even then, the lower portion of the tent doesn't really get as hot as the upper part does, so you might have issues with that as well. What I like to do to get around that, other than cleaning off the tent, is taking a piece of firewood in the morning. So not a cut piece that's going to be like a sharp edge like that, but more of just a round log. And if you take it and kind of just basically hammer it, just clunk it, the ice will break up and it won't tear your tent, is what I'm trying to say. You won't end up with your tent tearing apart. And if it's really, really bad, just ball it up in your backpack and go home. Let it melt out when you get there. So basically this is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of the evening. This kettle is already melted. It's just about ready to boil. And once that's done, I'm going to get that off of there, get it set in some snow, let it cool down. And if I need a drink later on tonight, I'll sip out of that. I also do have a little bit of tea left in my flask. So probably about half full actually. So I might warm that up and enjoy a little bit of this. And basically just let the wood dry out, load a piece every now and then, and save some for the morning time. So I'm going to be lounging inside of the tent, guys. So peace out, and I'll catch you in the morning time. Good morning, guys. It is a beautiful, frigid, cold morning out here today. So I've got the wood stove cranked up inside of the tent. I've got a hot tea on the go right now. I was already up early inside of the tent lighting the wood stove, and at that point I had 2 packs of oatmeal, so that was my breakfast already taken care of. Then I came outside, and across the lake over in the distance, beautiful sunrise. Purples, pinks, oranges, yellows. Absolutely incredible, and it is silent out here. Listen to this. Maybe a little bit of crackling from the fire in the background. That's about it. It is frigid cold. Negative 12 degrees Celsius out this morning. Definitely welcome. So the snow stopped at some point last night. I want to say probably about 11 p.m. and turned to ice. I can hear the ice rain, the freezing rain hitting the side of the tent. And at that point, I decided to clean off the tent just by banging on the walls lightly. And did very well because there's no frozen ice near the bottom. There's a little bit of snow, but there's no ice on the bottom. And with the heat from the tent and the stove, it's going to constantly melt off and go off that little rain gutter area on the tent that I was explaining yesterday. So I won't have any issues breaking down the tent, so that'll definitely be a bonus today because it's cold. And the old fingers took a toll yesterday. They were cold. I've got gloves, but sometimes wearing gloves, you lose a lot of dexterity. So I'd much rather freeze my fingers, get the job done, rather than glove up and be fumbly fingers all day long. So I'm going to sit back and enjoy my tea for a little bit longer and start the morning, guys. Alright guys, everything is packed up and inside of the bag, and that was no joke. That was a little bit more intensive than I anticipated. It wasn't a lot of gear, it was just a lot of small little steps. Fingers cold. I do have my stove gloves and my big leather hiking gloves, but we all know gloves, no dexterity. It's a little difficult to pack up with gloves, so these fingers got real cold, and that's the reason why I didn't film a whole lot of it. So everything is packed away and ready to go. I've got all of my layers on right now, which I'm definitely going to be shedding out of as soon as I start hiking out of here. The first little bit is through a lot of trees, which is why I like wearing my wool outer layer as kind of guard, a shield for my down layer, because I don't want to rip my down jacket. So wool is excellent for that, just plowing through the bushes. It doesn't rip easily, and it's just a good good outside layer. So everything is in here, like I said. I hope you guys enjoyed the adventure. I am basically ready to get out of here after I pack the camera away. I want to thank you guys for joining me on yet another adventure, and as always, there's more to come. So peace out, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.